Inside this bag I have... Wait, you already read the title, right? Before you click the link, so you know what's in here, right?
Hey, Jerome!
Yeah?
Throw up that title screen!
Okay. What's the title screen? Oh, mother... Wall charger. These are the new earpods that now have a lightning connector instead. It also comes with this dongle that has a lightning connector and a 3.5mm female jack and a standard USB to lightning cable. Let's talk about what's changed with the 7. This is a 6S, by the way, and this is a 6, but that's not important right now. Let's get the obvious out of the way, and let's talk about the exclusion of the 3.5mm audio jack. So you have a few options here. You can buy the iPhone 7 and bitch about it being gone. Stop. Or here are your other feasible options. 1. Use the earpods that came with your iPhone 7. The other end's of lightning variety, and it'll fit perfectly on your new iPhone. 2. Use the dongle that came with your iPhone 7. One end's for the lightning port, the other for your 3.5mm audio jack. Don't get me wrong, I understand the frustration of Apple removing the headphone jack. Believe it or not, my favorite pair of earbuds are only $6, and I own like 10 pairs because they're so cheap, and I lose them all the time. But the last thing I want to do is use the dongle to plug them into my iPhone. Or 3, go Bluetooth. I don't have a pair on me right now, so just pretend I do. So now I'm looking for a good wireless Bluetooth alternative. Actually, if you have recommendations, leave a comment below so I can check them out. Let's move on. For the first time in iPhone history, the iPhone 7 now has a front-facing speaker, and it's located right where the earpiece is. You still have the bottom-facing speaker below, and it works in conjunction with the front-facing one. The external speakers that come with the iPhone 7 still aren't the loudest, but it's a welcome addition. It's one of my favorite things they've done with the 7. In fact, here's a speaker test.
Check. Check. You in the presence of a real artist. Raps that I spit like a Warhol pick. I make it pop. I make it say that's my shit. Got you two-stepping on some daylight shit. And this beat is so heavy. Marty McFly in an old box Chevy. I'm king. Can't you tell by my pinky ring? Rose-colored gold like a dress from a queen.
Mobile World Congress 2016 began the other day, and Samsung and LG both released new flagship phones under their respective brands. Mobile World Congress 2016 began the other day, and Samsung and LG both released new flagship phones under their respective brands. Let's move on to the home button, or lack thereof. Apple calls it a solid-state home button, but I call it a flat surface. On any of the earlier versions of the iPhone, the home button is actually a button. You press on it and it depresses. That is, it moves down. The iPhone 7 doesn't do this. Instead, when you press on it, Apple calls it a tactic engine that provides haptic feedback, which means it'll vibrate. When you press on it, it gives you the impression, the sensation of pressing a button. But to me, it doesn't really feel like that. Word is, Apple did this to eliminate the wear and tear of an actual button being pressed over time. The solid state button is said to be more durable. I did, however, end up changing my home button settings to give it more haptic feedback, which I feel like makes a difference. To do this, go into Settings, General, Home Button, and select 3 for the most haptic feedback. For me, it's better than the default setting at 2 and loads better than 1. The iPhone 7 is now water resistant, so you can dunk it in your toilet bowl. I'm not gonna pour shit on my iPhone just to show you. You can watch other videos that do this. Jokes aside, I'm glad Apple did this to their iPhone 7, but just because it's water resistant doesn't mean I'm gonna let it live underwater. The iPhone 7 sports a 12 megapixel rear camera with an f1.8 aperture and OIS, optical image stabilization. This is the first time a non-Plus model comes with OIS. Apple also says it allows up to 50% more light in the camera sensor than the 6S. Photo test time? Photo test time. Wow, the 7 is dramatically different than the 6 and the 6S here. This was taken in very overcast weather just after dawn broke. The colors still seem very true to form on the 7, which I'm happy about, but the only thing that's getting to me is the sky is washed out in the 7. Take note of that though, because this is going to hold true for some of the later pictures. Let's move on. The 6 and the 7 in this set of pictures seem to carry the same color profile, while the 6S gives off more of a richer tone. I mean, for one, the blues look deeper in color. I do prefer that more so than the others, but again, look at the sky in the 7. Washed out, which is also affecting the trees on the far right. It looks like the sensor is definitely taking in much more light, but is it taking in too much light at the wrong times? In this set of pictures, you can see the 7 going to work. While the 6 and the 6S do a good job in very dim lighting, the 7 cuts a lot of noise out and offers the clearest picture of the 3. Check out how the 6S and the 7 differ in these shots. The 6S has the deeper blue in the sky, and the shadows are also more pronounced at the foreground where the grass lays. I do prefer this shot over the 7. I cropped this particular part of the image because I just want to show how too much light might be affecting the overall picture. While all 3 still came out rather nice, you can see how the 7's intake of light is much more than the 6 and the 6S. And while that may be a good thing in some instances, that additional light is now washing out the tile in the ceiling. I think this is where the 7 shines, indoors. In this crop set of pictures, the Ace is the clearest and carries the least amount of noise in the shot. This last set of pictures was taken in very poor lighting, and the 7 really shows its power here. While there's still noise in the picture, it's the best of the 3 by far. 24 hours isn't enough to test the camera on this phone. I tried to take all shots in sorts of lighting, day, night, dawn, and indoors. I made myself a promise to not look at any iPhone 7 video reviews because 1, there's just a ton of them, and 2, I didn't want to grow a bias on what other people were saying, so this is my genuine review on the camera. The iPhone still continues to provide great shots in all sorts of conditions. My only worry is the sensor taking in too much light. All these shots were taken in auto mode, all these shots were actually put on a tripod with a self-timer. I'll have to do more testing as I continue to get familiar with the phone.
Video stabilization test time. Those words just don't flow together. Roll that
Apple finally decided to give OIS to non-Plus owners, and I applaud them for that move. Many people wanted this feature but didn't want to move up to such a physically large phone. The 7 enhances the video experience over the 6 and the 6S. I'll have to do a side-by-side with the 7 and the 6S Plus and see how they stack up.
Some other quick things about the phone. I haven't dug into performance yet, but the phone seems solid. No lag, no hiccups. Honestly, it seems a lot like my iPhone 6s Plus. But again, I'm not a gamer, I don't use heavy CPU, GPU intensive apps, so my results may vary than yours in this respect. I might make another video down the line to test this out. The display is apparently 25% brighter, but when I turned auto brightness off and I put brightness to its max setting at 100%, I couldn't really tell either, at least not to the naked eye. I haven't had the phone long enough to speak in terms of its battery, but I'll save this down the line as well. And I didn't talk about design or build quality because, let's be honest, almost every iPhone that's come out and that I've had my hands on has had top-notch build quality. Design is beautiful and has mostly stayed the same, that it can be called classic, because to me it really is. If you've borrowed or owned an iPhone before, you know what I mean. And I didn't dig into software in this video because my last one was about iOS 10, so if you're interested, I'll throw a card up. The last thing I want to talk about is price. A 32 gig iPhone 7 will run you $649 before tax, 128 gig $749, 256 $849. For $100 less, last generation's iPhone 6s will run you $549 for 32 gigs and $649 for 128 gigs. If you absolutely need 256 gigs, the iPhone 7 is your only bet here, since the iPhone 6s was never made in that capacity. If the lowest price is your main priority, then go with the 32 gig iPhone 6s. If price and storage capacity is important for you, then you might want to look at the 6s at $649 for 128 gigs, since the 7 is 32 gigs only, same price. But if the 7 is the only one you want, then let me go over what an extra $100 will get you. So for one, you're gonna get the latest and greatest, and here are a few things worth mentioning. The 7 will give you a faster processor and additional front-facing speaker up top. You get OIS, optical image stabilization, on the rear camera, and better resistance to water. But you'll lose a 3.5mm audio jack at the bottom, and the home button just doesn't feel like a button anymore. So you gotta weigh your options. And look under the cushions if you need that extra $100. Huh. According to YouTube, this 24-hour review I uploaded became the 8 billionth video about the iPhone 7. Maybe I gotta start making cat videos.